Hello everyone, I'm the Saxy Gamer. Today we're here for yet another Civilization 6 Wonder Spotlight, where today we'll be taking a look at the Potola Palace, or if you are a cultured individual, you probably know this as the Potato Palace, which is definitely the correct pronunciation and definitely the one that I actually use. So the Potola Palace is a wonder that is unlocked with the astronomy technology. This does make it a Renaissance era wonder. To get the Eureka for astronomy, all you have to do is put down a university next to a mountain. So this is pretty simple. Most of the time you'll have at least one campus that's next to mountains, since that's probably where you're going to be getting most of your adjacency bonuses from. So by the time you reach astronomy, you probably will at least be working on getting a university built in one of those campuses. So a lot of the times you do find yourself having the Eureka for astronomy. And I can't remember if I mentioned it or not, but this does make the Potola Palace a Renaissance era wonder, and I actually remember to spell it right this time, I think. Once you research astronomy, I almost just call it astrology, but once you research astronomy, the building requirements for Potola Palace are that you must put it on a hill tile, and that hill tile must be adjacent to a mountain. So these are pretty easy to satisfy. You're probably going to have at least one of those, in your entire empire, unless you get really unlucky and don't really have any mountain tiles, which I find sometimes actually can happen, depending, especially if you're playing like a largely naval civ that doesn't happen to have a lot of mountains around, then maybe you don't have a spot for Potola Palace, but I'd say at least 8 or 9 times out of 10, you'll probably have a hill that's adjacent to a mountain. And as far as the production cost of Potola Palace is concerned, it does have a production cost of 1060, which is a GPU that I don't own. But 1060 is a little bit higher than the production cost of some of the other Renaissance era wonders that we've talked about. If I'm being totally honest, I don't really know why this one has a higher production cost, because it's not really that much better. I can't remember if it's a little bit later in the tech tree or not, but either way, it is going to take you slightly longer than some of the other Renaissance era wonders, just because of this slightly higher production cost. Even so, though, it's probably only going to be like 3 or 4 more turns as compared to some of the other ones that are 900, and I can't remember the numbers, so I'm not going to spew it out. As far as Potola Palace's bonuses are concerned, it has quite a few of them, so straight up it will provide +2 culture and +2 faith per turn. These yields are honestly kind of weak. I a lot of times prefer the 5 culture that Forbidden City gives as opposed to having 3 faith, but I mean, maybe if you're going for a religious victory, or if you just happen to have a religion, 3 faith can be nice, but either way, these yields are pitifully bad considering that it has over 1,000 production costs, so definitely don't build the Potola Palace just for this culture or faith boost. The areas that Potola Palace actually has some good stuff, though, is that, well, for one, you're going to get +1 diplomatic victory point. This isn't actually that much as what it was before, whenever it only took 10 diplomatic victory points to win, but then again, I can't remember if it even gave any points at that point in the game, but just a reminder that it does take 20 diplomatic points to win the game, so this is going to get you 1/20th of the way there. So if you are going for diplomatic victory, you might as well try to build a Potola Palace, because it takes you a little while to accrue some diplomatic victory points, so getting one actually can be a moderately significant boost and can shorten the time that you have to be in the game to try to grind it out. Also really good, though, is that it provides +1 diplomatic policy card slot, so this means that you can use, well, any of the diplomatic policy cards that you have. You can throw in 1 extra, and then bada bing, bada boom, you're going to have a little bit more versatility. So really, Potola Palace is kind of just like a crappier version of the Forbidden City, and that's really like the TLDR for this episode, is that Potola Palace is like Forbidden City, but kind of bad. No, it's not really bad. It's actually quite a good wonder, but compared to Forbidden City, it's kind of just a worse version that also helps you win a diplomatic victory. So now it is time to give the Potola Palace its wonder ratings, with all of that, trash talk in mind. So if you're new to the series, all you have to know here is that all of these ratings go on a 1 to 5 scale, with 1 being the worst and 5 being the best. So for the overall rating for the Potola Palace, the Potato Palace, I think that it deserves a 3. It's about, on the scale of potato hierarchy, I would put it roughly at baked potato. It's fairly average. It's definitely not, it's not like a quality mashed potato or anything like that, but, it's also not just like, oh man, I don't really know what type of potato I hate, because if I'm being honest, I don't really like potatoes that much in general, and Potato McWhiskey's probably going to get mad at me for that, but oh well, it happens. I just went on some sort of tangent there, and I don't really know why, but anyways, it does have a 3 rating. I think it's a fairly average wonder. It's pretty much, as I mentioned, just a worse version of Forbidden City, which, by the way, I know deserves a 5. But yeah, I think Potola Palace is it's decent. It gives you a little bit of flexibility with the diplomatic card slot, so that is something that is pretty good. The diplomatic cards are not some of my favorite ones in the game. Honestly, I think that a lot, more often the economic policy cards tend to have a bit of a bigger impact than the diplomatic ones, but even so, it still is nice to have that little bit of extra flexibility. Maybe you can get yourself some extra envoys, a little bit of gold, maybe you can buff up your spies a little bit. So for those cases, I think it actually can be good, but as I mentioned, it's just kind of like a worse version. It's just less flexible than the Forbidden City. As far as its difficulty rating is concerned, I think it deserves a 3. It is sometimes difficult to build, sometimes not. I don't know why, but sometimes the AI really like to build Potola Palace. I almost called it Potato Palace again, and sometimes they don't. I don't really know what makes them like it or not, but I would consider it to be like average difficulty on deity, average difficulty on deity, just because you do have to keep in mind if you want to build it and kind of get there a little bit early. You don't have to like super hard rush for it, but you do actually have to get there in a moderately prompt time span and start building it as soon as you research it as well. And as far as its consistency rating is concerned, I do think that it deserves a 5, just because, it's pretty consistent. Those yields you get they're not great, but they are going to be applicable to most games, just because you always need culture to be able to research civics. The diplomatic victory point, obviously, it's going to be pretty standard, and it's helpful in no matter what, like in any diplomatic victory game you're going. But also in the for the diplomatic policy card slot, that's useful for whatever victory type you're going for. If you're going for science victory, culture victory, diplomatic victory, pretty much anything, that diplomatic policy card is going to help out a little bit, and you can use it as you see fit and to tailor to whatever needs you have in the game. So for that reason, its bonuses are pretty consistent, and I think it deserves the 5. So thank you everyone for watching. I have been the Saxy Gamer. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you're looking for some more Civilization 6 content, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.